We are now going back to head to the U.S. and connect with Margaret Kimberley. Margaret is the editor and senior columnist of the Black Agenda Report. She has done a lot of solidarity work with Venezuela, including as a coordinating member of Black Alliance for Peace. Thank you, Margaret, for your time.
Thank you.
We're seeing U.S. citizens standing up to reject today's U.S.-backed coup attempt in Venezuela. They're currently guarding Venezuela's D.C. embassy from an opposition takeover. And I believe you were actually there. Tell us about that.
I've not been there in person, but I've been in touch with many of the embassy protectors throughout these last 3 weeks. It's very, very important they are the ones upholding international law. The Vienna Conventions on Diplomatic Relations clearly spells out that the elected government, the government of President Maduro, should be represented, should still be in the Venezuelan embassy in Washington, D.C. And these people are, unlike our president and his advisors, they are the ones upholding international law. It is vital that they continue to protect it. It is a tremendous, important show of solidarity for those Americans who oppose their country's, their government's aggression against Venezuela.
Yeah, Margaret, we've seen the coup essentially fizzle out. What do you think comes next for Venezuela? Do you think tensions will reignite in the coming days, fueled by Washington?
Yes, Washington will continue to make trouble for Venezuela. It was very odd. You know, most coups, one sector of the military will attack another or attack the president or attack the residents. This started out as more of a psyop, and it's very serious because it's being used to coordinate these diplomatic attacks, to coordinate sending these pro-Guaido protesters to the embassy. So it's important in that sense, but I don't know that we should call it a coup. It was more like a photo op, propaganda. That led to other actions being taken. So it's very that the Maduro government is still in control, that the army is still loyal to their president. More than 200,000 soldiers, a relative handful have, despite a lot of threats and pressure, only a few have defected to the other side. So I think all the trouble will be orchestrated by the United States. Guaido is not an independent actor. He's a creation of the U.S. government, and he will do whatever they order him to do. So unfortunately, there will be more acts of sabotage, more suffering for the Venezuelan people. But I do not believe they will be able to dislodge Maduro, because there's absolutely no support in this country for the U.S. to attack Venezuela. And they know it. That's why they have not done it yet.
Margaret, could you tell us about the solidarity with Venezuela we've seen in the U.S. And why that's so important?
It's very important for us for several reasons. We don't really have an opposition party. The attack on Venezuela is bipartisan. The Democratic Party, though the leadership are supporting the Trump administration, the corporate media have been attacking Venezuela for years. Long before this Guaido was chosen as government. So it's important for people who do know the truth, who are familiar with the history of Venezuela, to stand up and tell the rest of the country what is really going on, and to tell people who love peace, to tell people who care about international law, that we have to oppose our government on this issue.
Yeah, Margaret, we also know that members of Black Alliance for Peace have been to Venezuela recently. What have they said about those visits?
Well, our national organizer, Jamu Baraka, was the co-organizer of a recent delegation. The U.S. Peace Council arranged, and other groups that we are in coalition with visited Venezuela last month. And they reported back that what we already knew, that most of what we're told about Venezuela is not true. We're told that it's this dystopian hellscape and everyone is starving. And they told us that there's food everywhere, that the metro is free, that people support the president. That's why he is the president, because he won the election. They told us that the electoral process is one of the best in the world. And they told us mostly about the courage of the Venezuelan people, that they do not want their government overthrown. That's the lie we're always told here. And that people in that country want to live in peace. Whatever differences they may have with their government, they want to resolve peacefully. And they also told us how the United States government has interfered in Venezuelan politics and prevented any agreements, any coalitions, any possibilities of the government working with the opposition.
And finally, Margaret, the corporate media and the Venezuelan opposition may want us to think that this is an uprising by the Venezuelan people, but we can clearly see on social media that U.S. officials are very involved in all that's happening. What is your message to the U.S. government today?
Well, not that they care, but the U.S. government needs to stop waging wars of aggression. Sanctions is war. It's war by other means. There was a report recently which revealed that 40,000 Venezuelans lost their lives because of the impact of sanctions. So this is war. The American people don't want war. That's why they lie about Venezuela. If they told people what they really did, they would have no support. And so that is the most important thing for us to keep in mind at this moment. The American people in general do want peace. So they are lied and they're tricked into supporting these wars of aggression. And the American people need to step up and stop supporting these war parties. We are ruled by two war parties, and we must stop supporting them.
Margaret, we thank you so much for your time for Telesur English.